We have some news regarding the relationship between Mr. Zack Snyder and a mega studio named Netflix. Now, as you all know, back when Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2 was released, many haters was quick to declare it as a failure. In fact, they went as far as to say that Netflix was done with Mr. Zack Snyder, despite Part 1 getting well over 100 million views worldwide and Part 2 getting like 89 million views worldwide on a $150 million budget. That is both films, by the way. They were quick to say that Rebel Moon was a mega flop for that of Netflix. However, Netflix is proving them wrong. That's right. With today's news, Netflix is saying to the haters, shut up. Shut up. And I'm telling you, this studio is all in on Mr. Zack Snyder. Despite how you may feel about him, Netflix remains committed. Now, today's news comes from the Hollywood Reporter. It is titled Zack Snyder to direct, co-write LAPD action thriller for Netflix exclusive. So, direct and co-write. That seems to suggest that Netflix is looking at Zack Snyder and saying, look, give me what you got. The same thing they did with that of Rebel Moon, and the same thing they did with that of the zombie film. What was the name of that thing? I can't remember it right now. I know the sequel will be named Planet of the Dead. I forgot the name of the film right now. It's eluding me at this very moment. But that's what they said with everything that this man has brought to the table so far. Right? They're telling you, we are all in. Let's go. With its two-part epic sci-fi saga, Rebel Moon, behind him, the filmmaker is teaming with Netflix for a new feature project. This one is untitled action movie centered on a Los Angeles police department. Let me make this a little bit bigger, you guys. I'm sorry about that. You know. Snyder will direct the feature and is co-writing it with Kurt Johnston, his frequent collaborator, with whom he's worked with on 300, the adaptation of Frank Miller's comic, and the Rebel Moon movies, amongst others. Snyder is producing alongside wife and partner Deborah Snyder and Wesley Kohler via the trio Stone Corey Banner. So Netflix has incorporated Zack Snyder's studio with theirs. You can't make this stuff up, man. The project promises to be Snyder's first truly grounded feature, as it won't be populated by laser-shooting rebels, brain-eating zombies, bone-breaking Cape Crusaders, and lip-serving Spartans that have made up the abundance of the popular filmmaker's career. But it promises to be just a dramatic, weighty, and action-packed film. As always with Mr. Zack Snyder, right? You will always get action, right? That is something that Zack never lacks. If you feel like the guy lacks substance, even though I will disagree with that, you gotta admit his action scenes are off the chain. Nobody can touch him. Like, to this day, what happened in Man of Steel has yet to be topped, right? And Batman versus Superman, right? All of those action scenes was phenomenal. And in that of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So when it comes down to action, that man is top tier. Just plain and simple. Now, why is Netflix so invested? Now, if you go back to Netflix's viewership numbers, right? You have that of the Army of the Dead. That's the name of the zombie film. You have Army of the Dead, right? That film only had like a $80 million budget. I believe it was a little bit less, right? And it got 89 million views, right? Then you look at Rebel Moon Part 1, it's sitting at like 120 million views, somewhere along those lines. And you look at Rebel Moon Part 3. As I say Part 3, we're going to be getting that. I promise you, watch. Rebel Moon Part 2, almost 100 million views. So Netflix understands that this man brings the viewership. All right. People want to put their eyes on what Zack Snyder is presenting. You know what I'm saying? He makes some very interesting films, right? He has always been very good at giving you films that you're not used to, right? Like even when it comes down to his superhero movies, a lot of people hated his superhero films because they were different. It wasn't like that of the Marvel films, right? Or even that of the original Fantastic Four film and the Spider-Man movie, right? No, it was a mythology to those films that he brought forth, and he continues to bring that with everything that he directs till this day. Right, Rebel Moon, man, that looks like something out of the Greek mythology. You know what I'm saying? I was like, whoa, this is absolutely fantastic. The statues, it's almost like he took a culture and he put his own spin to it. Wow, simultaneously making it beautiful. Right, I love Rebel Moon, man. I feel like it's easily some of Zack Snyder's best work. Right, some of his best work, like for real. Now, as for the haters, right? Those people who feels that Netflix was done or is done with that Mr. Zack Snyder, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? Many people continue to hate on this man despite his success. And those same people who hates on that of Rebel Moon and declare it as a failure are the same people who's looking at the Penguin. I'm sorry, I'm messing up here. The Penguin streaming series on HBO Max and seeing 2.9 million households view the finale are saying, oh, that is fantastic. That's fantastic. 2.9 million views. But they will look at Rebel Moon viewership and say, it's a flop. It's a failure. It's a failure. These people are hypocrites. They're absolute hypocrites. This is why I am happy that the 4KO exists, right? Because not too many YouTubers are willing to keep it as real as I do. And I hate to keep saying that, but it's a shame, right? You can hate something while giving it its props, right? Everybody can do it. I do it all the time on this channel, right? What I don't do is, just because I hate something, fail to acknowledge its success, and not to mention the person that's behind its success, right? Like I said, if I don't like a film, but the film managed to be successful, I'm going to let you know. I'm not going to keep that information from you. Why should I? You have the right to know the truth. Because when you put out fabrications, what happens is it spreads like cancer, and people will keep on talking about it, and next thing you know, it's the norm. It's what everybody think is actually happening or has happened. And that is farthest from the truth. We need to learn how to retain information and make sure that information is factual, right? And we need to spread the good news and not so much of the bad news. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you can sit here and say to yourself, look, a situation has some good and bad in it, right? But if the good outweighs the bad, what is there to complain about? Just like people say Rebel Moon's reception was bad, right? But the reception is no indication of the film's success. This is the same thing that the Transformers franchise went through, right? Dark of the Moon and also that of the Revenge of the Fallen, right? People said that it was a failure, right? All because they didn't like the two films. But when you look at the box office numbers, right? You look at how much money those films made, they were successful. Just because you despise it, don't mean that you don't have to give it its props. Now, regarding that of Zack Snyder and Rebel Moon and Netflix, they have something on their hands that they feel that they can invest in, right? For the coming future. Netflix is a platform that is constantly hungry for that of new content, right? And what they like the most is a director who has so many ideas, right, to bring to the table, because they do not mind giving that director free reign, and not to mention investing into him, especially if he has already been proven for the studio. You have multiple examples here. Netflix knows what they have. And trust me when I tell you, they're going to peel every last idea out of Zack Snyder's head before he walks away from that studio. And that's another thing. In my opinion, they refused, and I mean refused, to let anybody else get them. This move suggests that they're trying to lock him in, lock him down. Don't look nowhere else. You're home. You got a room over here. You got a roof over your head. You got a refrigerator with food all day. Free food, I meant to say. So, with that being said, Netflix and Zack Snyder's relationship is quite strong. And in the coming years, we will see exactly how much more they're going to invest into this guy. Right? We have Rebel Moon Part 3 and Army of the Dead. I'm sorry, it's Planet of the Dead and Twilight of the Gods Season 2. So we will see exactly what we will all be getting from this studio.